Hey there, thank you for joining me. We're going to have some Friday fun today, and I've often talked about how much I love reading, and a lot of times I'm talking a bit more about the more serious stuff I like to read. It comes up in the devotionals that I've read and that I've shared through the devotional videos we've done. I've brought up more serious things I like to read sometimes in the Saturday videos, and I wanted to share a couple books that I've read recently that I have thoroughly enjoyed. One of them being one of these more serious ones, but I also wanted to share. I don't just enjoy reading these very serious books. There's a lot of books that I find that are just kind of fun and aren't much more than that, and that's okay. Um, so the first book is a collection of writings or speeches given by Archbishop Desmond Tutu called The Rainbow People of God. And Archbishop Tutu became very famous for fighting against apartheid in his native South Africa. And all of these writings were dealing with race issues in South Africa. And these are all from the 70s, 80s, 90s. So they're not talking about our current situation. And they weren't written for the United States. They were written for South Africa. But I have found a lot in them to speak to the situation in the United States today. Just a lot of the things he says are so striking because of how they mirror our current situation. And I think that book perfectly represents why I like reading older works. Whether it's a book like this, sometimes reading older political works that are just a little bit removed can be extremely insightful. Or just reading histories, like hearing the stories from a long time ago, hearing about Dietrich Bonhoeffer and what he did in Nazi Germany, hearing about what Christians dealt with during persecution in Rome, hearing the way that Christians explain their beliefs several hundred years ago or several thousand years ago, or 1,000 or 2 years ago. It's just fascinating. It really is. And I've been extremely excited to get to read a lot of these things. And so it was really exciting for me to be able to read these works of Desmond Tutu's. I've had them on my shelf for some time now and finally got around to reading it and was very inspired with what I read. And then after that, because with everything that Desmond Tutu said and everything that he went through a lot, and it gets very heavy. And a lot of times after I've read something really heavy, I'm thinking, okay, I just want to pick up something light that I can get through, and we'll just be able to read right through it. And so I picked up a book. It's called The Day of Confession, and it was a thriller. It's just a fun read. It was pretty good and had several surprises that were just really great surprises. Some twists along the way, but it was just a fun book. There's nothing really to get out of it. And I've read plenty of those, reading through the Star Wars series. Those are, to me, it's fun, but I'm not one of the people who's drawing a larger philosophy from Star Wars. It's fiction. It can be fun. You can teach lessons and you can get illustrations from it that you might not get elsewhere. But when I'm reading it, honestly, most of the time, I just want to relax and have some fun with what I'm reading. I talked a couple weeks ago about how I enjoy mythology, and I am looking forward to reading Jack White's take on King Arthur and placing that in historical England. But honestly, before I got into that, I just wanted kind of a fun read for a little mix of both. And there's a lot that you can read that's a mix of both of those. I think reading Jack White's King Arthur tale might be that. I'm not sure yet. But definitely something that I think will be a mix of something kind of serious to read and something that will be a lot of fun. Is I'm getting ready to read Harper Lee's Go Set a Watchman. If you haven't heard about this book, if you didn't hear the controversy surrounding this book, Harper Lee, very famously, is the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, widely considered one of the greatest American novels of all time. And in To Kill a Mockingbird, you are being told the story from the perspective of Jean Louise Finch, who's known as Scout. And she's watching her dad defend an African American in court, even though everything is arranged against this African American, but Scout's dad, Atticus, wants justice, and you watch as the story kind of unfolds, and he becomes this great defender for equality and for justice. And from what I've heard, and this is all over the place, so I guess in a way this is a spoiler, but it's a spoiler that it's going to be hard for you to interact with anything about Go Set a Watchman and not hear this. Go Set a Watchman takes place a few decades later. Scout's all grown up. She believes she's taking after her dad, is much more liberal, wants equality. This is now set when segregation's getting taken away, and Jean gets disappointed because Atticus is working to keep segregation in Alabama. And it becomes this story of someone who once fought for justice and is now fighting against justice, is fighting to keep injustice in place, and Scout is horrified at how this happened. And it devastated so many people to hear that this is actually what's happening. But in a lot of ways, I think, from what I've heard, I'm getting ready to read the book. I will let you know if this is true or not. But in a lot of ways, I think this is kind of our experience of people who fight for justice. Most people who fight for justice don't realize where and how far you have to go to actually gain justice. So this is going to be a book that I think is going to help in looking at injustice in the world today and where we're at, but kind of where we need to be and how best to look at our society right now, where a lot of us are either in the role kind of Atticus, or we have fought for greater justice and we were that champion, and now we're not that champion anymore, even though we still see ourselves that way. And a lot of us are Scout, who saw the people fighting for justice and was super excited about it, and now they're seeing them on the exact opposite side that they were on before, and we're getting kind of disenchanted with how just society might be. So I'm very interested. It's also just reading a good book is always something that I'm interested in, but I figured I'd give you guys kind of an update on some reading, but also to remind you guys, like, I read because it's a really good way to relax and clear my mind. If you're watching TV, I'll watch YouTube videos, browse Facebook, the same as almost all of you. But if I'm trying to relax like that, a lot of times you end up feeling more tired after watching all these videos. Whereas if you're reading a book, it helps you relax a lot more. So that's something that I normally do. And yes, there are plenty of times where I'm not always reading, this amazing theological work or these incredible devotional books or, these extremely serious things. I love reading those. I really do enjoy them, but I also enjoy just getting a random fiction book, whether it's Star Wars or mythology or even just a random book that I somehow got on my shelf. I enjoy those just as much as the next person does, and Yeah, so I would encourage you, this weekend. The weather has been really nice lately, so if this weekend you're coming up on being able to have some time, I would encourage you to get outside maybe and read. But yeah, whatever it is that you're going to have around to pick up, it could just be a mystery, it could be kind of a thriller, whatever. Pick something up, read it. It could be a lot of fun, and maybe you'll gain a lesson from it, or maybe you'll just have had a chance to relax and had some fun. But this has been a fun Friday. God bless you guys. Take care.